Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic Hypersonic.
Positronic Hypersonic.
Positronic Hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the latest episodes of your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. And I say episodes plural because after last week's double episode premiere, it looks like Disney has decided to release multiple episodes at once every week. So this week we got 3, and it looks like we're going to get 3 next week, which will bring the total to 8. And then one last week, there'll be 3 more because I think it goes up to 11 episodes. Anyway, we got 3 episodes to get through, so let's get to it. The first one was called Secret Identity Crisis. And as it starts, Norman Osborn tells Peter that they'll talk later, but that his secret, which he recently discovered at the end of last week's second episode, is safe with him. So Peter hangs out with Nico for a bit before going to dinner with Mr. Osborn, who treats him to quite a meal before Peter tries to convince Mr. Osborn that what he saw on the security video was just someone pulling a prank, but it doesn't work. So he owns up to it, but asks Mr. Osborn not to tell his aunt about it because she's already under a bunch of stress, which impresses Mr. Osborn, who has apparently been trying to find Spider-Man to thank him for saving Harry. More than thank him, he wants to help Peter upgrade his stuff, but Peter rebuffs him out of fear that Norman and Oscorp could come to harm by associating with him. Meanwhile, a couple places a bunch of money in a dumpster, which turns out to be a robot that scales the walls of the alley they're in and takes off with their money, leaving behind something in a case for them. When Peter gets home, he finds May going through a bunch of stuff to sell online for extra money, as well as that she has a few past due bills. At school the next day, Lonnie buys Peter's lunch but gets called away home to find the police there, and that his brother is in trouble for vandalization before going to confront his brother, who's apparently taken off out his window. The couple from earlier robs a jewelry store with the help of some crazy tech, which must have been what was in the case, but it isn't long before Spider-Man confronts them to find that their tech gives them super strength and super speed, as well as laser blades. At the same time, Lonnie ends up tracking his brother by his phone to a gang hideout and ends up joining the gang himself in order to get the gang leader to let his brother leave. Meanwhile, the cops show up at the robbery scene to find Spider-Man down for the count and the tech-enhanced couple kicking their butts. But Peter gets a second wind when Mr. Osborn hacks into his tech to try to help him figure out a way to beat the thief couple, which he ends up doing. Afterwards, Peter goes to Mr. Osborn and tells him that he now wants to accept his offer of help, realizing that he needs it. And that was the end of that episode. The next episode was called Hitting the Big Time. At Oscorp, Peter is giving a presentation, but it isn't satisfying his supervisor, who gives him a hard time. But not for very long before Peter gets called away to meet with Mr. Osborn, and on the way, he literally bumps into Harry. In Mr. Osborn's office, Peter and Mr. Osborn watch the news about the Sokovia Accords being put in place after the battle at the airfield, in which Peter actually participated in the movies before Norman shows him some new suits he's had made, which Peter wasted no time putting to use and then struggling with while trying to stop a robbery, help a little girl get a balloon back, and get around the city. At the same time, Lonnie gets sent to pick up a food order for the gang, whereupon he's confronted by some people that would appear not to like his boss very much, and who are members of a different gang led by Max Gargan, aka Scorpion from the comics. Back at Oscorp, Norman gives Pete yet another suit that seems to fit the bill this time, and soon enough, there's a robbery that Peter has to deal with the aftermath of, rescuing people from a bad crash where a truck was on fire, leaving the robbers to the police. When he returns to Oscorp, Peter ends up accidentally outing himself as Spider-Man in front of Harry. Before the episode ends, we see that one of the robbery suspects, Mila Mazarek, who bailed on her crew members before the cops got them, is involved with none other than Otto Octavius, aka Doc Ock. That's where that episode ended. So the third episode was called The Unicorn Unleashed. And as it starts, Mila Mazarek, who is a gender-swapped version of a male character from the comics who becomes the villain Unicorn, buys some tech from Dr. Octavius. Peter, meanwhile, buys some tickets to a cult horror film for he and Nico to attend together, as Lonnie returns to team practice after having missed one, but finds himself called away by his new gang boss. Peter and Harry have a conversation about how they both admire Captain America, while Unicorn breaks her crew members out of prison with her new tech. While the breakout's in progress, Peter heads to the prison to try to stop it and winds up confronting Unicorn. Simultaneously, Lonnie and his gang attend a fight against the Scorpion Gang, in which Lonnie finds himself without any clue what to do, which causes him to end up getting stabbed. But in the process, he saved his gang boss from getting attacked. When Unicorn and some of her crewmates end up getting in an argument during the prison break, it's just the distraction Spider-Man needs to get Unicorn's helmet away from her before heading off to meet Nico at the movies just in time. But Nico's disappointed when she realizes that Peter has brought Harry along. Lonnie gets a hero's welcome back at gang headquarters and is given his new nickname, Tombstone. And that's where the third episode ended. So I continue to like this show. I really, really like the animation style. Some people have dogged on it and said that it looks like crap. I disagree. I think it looks like hand-drawn artwork, like a comic strip or a comic book would look. So I don't understand why people don't like it. I think it's excellent. The voice cast for this show is phenomenal. I think they are better than just passable. I think they really do a good job in these parts. These characters feel real to me. The way they speak and intonate and everything and emote. I think they really do a good job. And I think I said this last week, I think the actor portraying Peter is just fantastic. He makes the character feel, like I said, real, like Spider-Man is supposed to feel, like a kid that's kind of winging it and doing all these superheroic things while at the same time dealing with life as a high school freshman. It just feels real in that sense. The character feels like that's exactly who he is. And I think that's something to be hugely applauded because the voice actor is actually an adult. So they're doing a really, really good job. The soundtrack for the show, the music that they use continues to be excellent. And I'm really digging the character development. This feels like a full-blown show with three-dimensional characters. It doesn't feel like a slick Saturday morning cartoon where, the characters were more caricatures than characters or more, one-dimensional than three-dimensional. On this show, the characters feel like fully realized humans due to the writing and, again, the voice acting. So I'm really enjoying it. They're really giving us a lot to dig into, a lot of meat on the bone, as it were, for these characters. Of course, Peter Parker, Spider-Man, but also, in no small part, the Lonnie character, who, of course, is now on his way to becoming Tombstone. They've given him the name, and he's going to eventually become Tombstone, who is a villain in the comics. But there's just a lot of depth there, particularly to that backstory. There's depth in the relationship between Peter and Nico, who was visibly disappointed that it wasn't just going to be her and Peter at the movie. Someone said that the character is gay. I don't remember anything like that being in these first 5 episodes coming from her. I don't think she's indicated that. And so I was kind of looking for indications after someone said that. And the only indication I saw was that she might kind of have a thing for Peter. So I don't think she's gay. And I have to say, I really like the idea that she has a thing for Peter because I think they're a great couple, even though they're not a couple yet. But I think they're great together. I think their chemistry is awesome. And I would like to see that happen. I like what they're giving us in terms of Norman Osborn because, again, in the comics, he becomes the Green Goblin. So it's really great that they're giving us all this time with him to see what he's like now, because it just will make what may happen. We don't know if they're going to do it on this show, but it would just make what may happen hit with that much more of a punch since he's such a benevolent, good person now. So I'm really enjoying that. So I think it's just a really good show all the way around. Writing, acting, animation, the soundtrack, character development, which goes with the writing. I think it's just really, really good. One thing about these episodes that I have to kind of point out that I wasn't thrilled with is that I found it confusing in that in the MCU, in the live action MCU, Spider-Man takes part in, quote unquote, the Civil War between Captain America's group and Tony's group. He's part of the fight at the airfield that's referenced in the news coverage that's seen in one of these episodes. Clearly, this version of Spider-Man was not involved in that battle. So this would seem to be taking place, this show, in another universe separate from Earth, I guess 616, where the MCU takes place. Yet they had the same Civil War events take place and the same Sokovia Accords happen. So it's similar, but not the same, it seems, which is an interesting choice. I'm wondering whether over the course of the rest of the season, the reason for that's going to become apparent. And maybe that explains why some of the characters are gender swapped and race swapped. Although I don't think in the main MCU, any of the characters they've changed were actually shown on Earth 616 anyway. So anyway, we'll have to see if there's any point to them making that very obvious distinction or not as the rest of the episodes come out. But it's a really good show. I'm really liking it. If you haven't checked it out, you should check it out if you're a Spider-Man fan, or even if you're just a comic book fan. It's a really good show. I'm going to get out of here for now. I'll be back with another video soon. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.